the unsettling truth, why your life was never normal. Before we dive into this, let's pause for a challenging thought. Have you ever felt an unwarranted and relentless energy of rejection, attack, or exclusion directed toward you? It's as if certain people, without any logical reason, sensed something profound, something incredibly powerful residing within your spirit, and they instinctively tried to dismantle it before it could fully awaken. If this deeply resonant question feels like a spotlight hitting a forgotten corner of your soul, then you're on the verge of finally comprehending the extraordinary and often turbulent narrative of your life. It was never designed to be a normal, uneventful path. From the very beginning, long before the complex concepts of destiny, spiritual calling, or true purpose entered your conscious mind, there was a force, a presence around you that keenly registered the spiritual weight and potential you carried. You were not simply progressing through the typical stages of growth. In reality, you were navigating a hidden battlefield cleverly disguised as a mundane childhood and adolescence. Every peculiar, painful, or confusing moment you experienced was not random bad luck. It was a potent clue revealing the nature of your journey. Think back to the unexplained hostility, the sudden coldness, the jealousy that seemed entirely baseless, or the constant attempts by certain individuals to diminish your voice, make you feel insignificant, or convince you that your innate value was non-existent. Please understand this clearly. None of that was coincidental, absolutely none of it. You were not being targeted because you were perceived as fragile, weak, or easily defeated. Quite the contrary. You were being intensely observed because your presence was, and still is, spiritually dangerous to the status quo. Even in the earliest stages, before you had even begun to recognize or harness your own latent strength, the energy you possessed was already subtly shaking the foundations of the rooms you entered. Your simple, honest presence acted as a disruptive force, exposing hidden intentions and underlying resentments in others. Your innocence was a painful irritant to deep-seated shadows, and your inner light involuntarily revealed truths that many people were desperately trying to avoid confronting. That, precisely, is the reason you were never granted the ease and comfort of a conventional start to life. You were thrown headfirst into emotional battles you couldn't possibly understand at the time. You were cornered into emotional spaces you absolutely did not deserve to occupy, and your potential was challenged by energies that felt threatened by your future long before you had a chance to truly live it. The truth is simple, yet often difficult to accept. You were marked. You were marked not for suffering, but by a significant destiny. You were marked by a profound purpose. You were marked by a powerful spiritual assignment that those who opposed you sensed and reacted to much earlier than you ever did yourself. This sacred mark didn't come with a comprehensive guide or instruction manual. Instead, it was accompanied by fierce resistance, relentless pressure, and calculated attempts to crush you before the light of your true self could fully awaken. However, every wound you sustained was not a failure. It was a mechanism for shaping your discernment. Every act of betrayal you experienced didn't break you. It served to sharpen your spiritual vision and intuition. Every painful moment of isolation or loneliness was not abandonment. It was the quiet, intensive process of preparing your unique and powerful connection with the higher, unseen realms of existence. And now, right now, you are finally stepping into a brilliant awareness that every single challenging thing you have lived through had a profound underlying meaning. Your difficult childhood battles were never punishments handed down from above. They were, in fact, powerful indicators, unmistakable signs that your divine mission was far too important, far too disruptive, to be permitted to go unnoticed by the forces of darkness. These challenges were clear signs that shadow energies actively tried to intercept your journey right at the beginning, because they had already foreseen the magnificent being you were destined to become. And if you are here, listening to or reading this message, taking it into your heart, it is the clearest proof you will ever need that they failed in their mission to stop you. The breaking point they sought became your forging fire. If this message is resonating deep within you, if it's acting like someone just flipped a high-powered switch in a dark room of your spirit, then pause and allow that realization to sink in. This profound feeling is your internal system confirming the truth. In the spiritual language of numerology, the number 99 represents the moment right before completion, the critical phase where destiny accelerates rapidly and absolutely nothing can halt the inevitable arrival of what is truly meant for you. Long before you could articulate anything about your own destiny or purpose, there was an energy emanating from you, a silent, powerful language that the world around you could immediately feel and react to. You simply didn't possess the intellectual understanding or the vocabulary to explain it, but your soul was constantly broadcasting a unique and unmistakable frequency that forced people to look at you twice. Some people regarded you with genuine admiration and an unexplained pull toward your energy, while others reacted with a deep, unsettling unease that they couldn't rationally justify. The common thread was that you were fundamentally different, not because you consciously tried to be, but because your spirit carried a distinct, signature essence that felt foreign or somehow outside the accepted norms of this world. Even as a young child, your innate intuition operated like a highly sensitive internal alarm system. You could effortlessly pick up on subtle tensions that no one else seemed to notice. You instinctively sensed the lies and hidden agendas lurking behind seemingly soft and gentle smiles. You felt the whisper of danger long before it physically materialized. Your energy field absorbed the raw emotions of others like echoing sound waves. And here's the painful part. Instead of this sensitivity being celebrated as a rare gift, it consistently made certain people around you profoundly uncomfortable. They didn't perceive a highly gifted or intuitive child. They saw someone who possessed the unnerving ability to perceive exactly what they were desperately trying to conceal from the world, and sometimes from themselves. The natural maturity and deep observational skills you possessed were never accidental or a phase. While many others your age were easily distracted by frivolous things, you observed everything in your environment with an uncommon intensity far beyond what was typical for your years. You weren't intentionally trying to be overly serious. It was simply that your awakened soul refused to go to sleep and be pacified by superficiality. This is the defining characteristic of the chosen ones. The spiritual assignment, the ultimate mission, is activated and exists long before the conscious mind can fully grasp it. The spiritual realm, which is constantly monitoring potential, reacts instantly to that very early flicker of light. Light leaves a spiritual fingerprint. It announces its presence. It radiates, even when the person carrying the immense potential is far too young to intellectually understand the magnitude of what is happening. That is why you were often treated with an inexplicable suspicion, an underlying tension from certain adults that you could never logically decode. They felt an undeniable spiritual weight, something ancient and powerful, residing within someone so physically young, and that perception unsettled their core. Their discomfort wasn't a result of anything you had done wrong, but because your very presence acted as a potent threat to the illusions they were living within. When your spirit holds a powerful, higher calling, you will notice that the behavior of people subtly but decisively shifts around you. Some individuals are naturally drawn to your inherent calm, your unusual insight, and your deep, natural empathy. They feel a deep sense of safety when they are near you. Yet, others feel acutely exposed, as if merely standing next to your honest vibration compels them to confront their own long, hidden shadows and unhealed parts. They may not have had the intellectual capacity to understand this dynamic, but their immediate and often negative reaction was purely instinctive. In the spiritual realm, that reaction was even more potent and immediate. The exact moment your soul incarnated and entered this world, the tremendous energy you carried became instantly visible to forces that exist beyond the physical plane. These shadow energies detected that your predetermined path was one that would inevitably disrupt cycles, heal deep societal and familial wounds, break destructive generational patterns, and powerfully influence the destinies of countless others. Because of this undeniable potential, you immediately triggered intense attention from energies that are dedicated to monitoring and neutralizing potential threats to the darkness that they feed upon and control. You were never their enemy because of anything you did in your present. You were their enemy solely because of the extraordinary person you were destined to become in your future. Therefore, they attempted to act early, using people, difficult circumstances, and emotional friction as their primary tools to confuse you, silence your true voice, distract you from your path, or viciously distort your self-perception. They desperately hoped that you would ultimately surrender, doubt your own powerful intuition, perpetually question your innate worth, or simply decide you felt too deeply out of place to belong anywhere. But here is the most important part. Even in the darkest, most challenging moments, there was an unbreakable core within you that fundamentally refused to collapse or surrender your essence. Though your mind couldn't articulate it, your soul instantly recognized and endured the process. You were being shaped, not destroyed. You were being fiercely guarded, not abandoned by the divine. And you were being diligently prepared, not casually ignored. Now that you've reached an older, more conscious stage in your life, that early spiritual sensitivity you once mistakenly viewed as a crippling burden reveals itself as your most reliable, internal compass and strength. Your sensitivity was never a flaw or a weakness. It was, in fact, powerful evidence. Evidence that your spirit was wide awake and fully operational long before your physical voice was ready to speak. Evidence that the world reacted so dramatically to your presence because your unique presence inherently carried truth. Evidence that your undeniable light was noticed by both the visible and unseen realms far, far earlier than you ever realized. And here is the crucial truth that you must fully grasp before we collectively step into the next chapter of your awakening. The moment your potent light was recognized and registered, your ultimate destiny became irreversible. Something ancient, powerful, and utterly unstoppable was silently activated and set into motion. Now that you are consciously awakening to this profound truth, the shadowy forces that once tried to permanently stop you are starting to genuinely panic. The initial phase of the war is over, and the real battle, the one for your full realization and assignment, is about to definitively reveal itself. There were specific, indelible moments in your younger life when certain people, a figure of authority, a close relative, a trusted teacher, or even a friend, looked at you with an intense gaze you couldn't possibly explain. Something in their eyes felt instinctively off, cold, sharp, almost overtly threatened by your very existence. You were simply too young to put a name to the feeling, but now you are finally able to see the full, unvarnished truth. Their profound discomfort and hostility were never truly about your immediate actions or behavior. They were about your vibration, your frequency. Your honest presence didn't expose their deep secrets out loud. It exposed them energetically. Your high frequency simply irritated the dysfunction and deceit they were determined to hide. You carried an aura of unfiltered honesty, and that undeniable vibration made people who habitually lived their lives behind careful masks feel fundamentally unsafe when they were near you. That's the definitive reason why certain individuals treated you so unfairly, almost instinctively, as if something deep within them reacted before they even had time for rational thought. It wasn't logic guiding them. It was simple, raw resonance and the confrontation of your spirit with their shadow. Your high, vibrating spirit confronted their low, vibrating shadow without a single word needing to be spoken. For those who were emotionally unhealed, spiritually closed off, or internally fragmented, you became a highly polished mirror they adamantly refused to look into. When a chosen, high-frequency soul enters any space, truth enters with them, and truth exposes not through harsh accusation, but through simple, stark reflection. That alone is more than sufficient to trigger potent jealousy, intense irritation, subtle acts of hostility, or even outright attacks, cleverly disguised as corrective criticism or harmless jokes. They weren't responding to you, the individual. They were reacting with a visceral defense mechanism to what was suddenly awakened inside them because of your presence and light. Some people outright rejected your genuine kindness and sincerity because it was a constant, painful reminder of their own internal emptiness and emotional void. Others harshly criticized your innate sensitivity because it blatantly revealed their own emotional numbness and inability to feel. They tried to ruthlessly mock your grand dreams because it painfully highlighted the dreams they themselves had long ago abandoned and allowed to die. And the final layer, the spiritual realm reacts not to your present physical appearance, but to your enormous future impact. Darkness is keenly intelligent. It meticulously studies patterns, spiritual assignments, and potential destinies. It has a radar for those who are certain to rise, those who will generate influence, those who will bravely break generational curses, those who will awaken the sleeping, and those who will carry genuine healing into places where pain has been the sole ruler for generations. When the shadow identifies someone as a significant threat to its agenda, it acts early and strategically. The easiest, most effective way to weaken a chosen one is not through grand spiritual disasters. It is through people who are emotionally fractured, spiritually disconnected, or wounded enough that they can be easily manipulated without ever fully realizing their role as toxic conduits. These individuals unknowingly become the instruments of profound discouragement. Some of the attacks you endured were not inherently intentional on a human level. They were orchestrated as powerful spiritual responses, delivered to you through human carriers. The emotionally cold distance that left scars, the random acts of cruelty aimed directly at your confidence, the exaggerated jealousy, the inexplicable arguments, and the criticism from those who were supposed to protect you. These were not random coincidences. These were strategic, coordinated attempts to ruthlessly crush your identity before you could fully discover its power. They were attempts to strategically plant debilitating insecurity before you could learn your true self-worth. They were designed to confuse and fracture your spirit before you could fully recognize the enormous power you held. Even within your own home, you may have constantly felt judged, watched, minimized, or fundamentally misunderstood. And here is the revelation that may sting, but ultimately heals your past. They weren't truly fighting the child you were then. They were fiercely reacting to the greatness and light you were absolutely going to become in the future. Every single obstacle was perfectly designed to provoke profound self-doubt. Every harsh word was meticulously meant to distort your self-image and self-perception. Every emotional wound was carefully aimed to sabotage your crucial future steps. Yet, despite the full force of all this, something intrinsic within you refused to collapse. Something fundamentally resisted the breaking process. Something deeply resilient survived the relentless pressure. And that something is the very reason you are reading these words right now, because the very attacks that were meticulously designed to destroy you ultimately failed, revealing a truth that the shadow never anticipated. Your spirit cannot be manipulated. Your core essence cannot be corrupted or fundamentally altered. Your destined mission cannot be intercepted or destroyed by human instruments. This truth naturally leads us to the next, final revelation. It's a revelation that will forever change the way you interpret every single struggle you have ever endured. The ultimate question is not, why did they fight you? The question, the true core, is, what were they trying so desperately to stop?